Good evening. We appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you tonight. I want to share our story, and we do feel strongly that it is our story. While I was the guy that was had the radical prostatectomy and was experiencing the issue, it's obviously a couple's issue. Can't get around that. But what I'd like to do is just to give you a little bit of background about what led up to my having the surgery, and then I'm going to pause halfway through and let Betty share kind of what was going on from her perspective. But the story actually began in March of 1994 when I sat across from my urologist and he said, "John, I'm sorry to tell you, but you got prostate cancer." Now, at that point, I was 51 years old. I'm 83 today. But at that point, relatively young. So the decision was made to have the radical prostatectomy, remove the prostate, and if I was older, then they probably would have looked at some of the other options. But the first thing we did was try these other options. Now this was in 1994, and that was well before Viagra. Viagra didn't come out in 1998. So I don't know whether that would have ever helped or not. But I began with the vacuum erection device that you saw, which was the big tube that goes over the penis, and tried that. And there are a lot of guys that swear by it and use it, and it's wonderful. It hurt like the dickens for me. It was pulling skin and pubic hair, and it didn't work. So I went back and I said, "Doc, what else you got?" And he said, "Well, I got these shots. We can give you a shot." And after I got over the injury to personal, if you want me to put the needle where, we tried it, and we tried it several times, but it only gave me kind of a half erection. Maybe the mix was not correct. I'm not sure, but that just didn't work. So I went back yet again and said, "Doc, what else you got in your bag of tricks? Because this is not working." At which point we were introduced to the penile implant. And a year after the surgery, it was actually in June of '95, I had the penile implant. So I've had this penile implant now for 30 years. It's the same one. We've never had any issues or any problem with it. So I want to take you through the whole thing, but I'm going to pause here and let Betty tell you what was kind of going on from her perspective while we were going through this issue.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for being with us tonight. When we went through that, they didn't have any groups, face-to-face groups or online groups. And so it was really difficult. And if we can do anything, we found a good answer for us. And if we can do anything to keep people from going through it the way we did, we would like to do that. So that's the reason we participate in this. During this time, it was very, very lonely for me because John was the one going to the doctor. I even asked to go with him once, and because the doctor wasn't used to working with the couple, he just worked with the man at the time. That was not real satisfactory even. Although he was the one that got us in, he asked us to meet with couples. He had realized that needed to be. So that made it, even going to him didn't help me a whole lot. I still felt like I was really in the dark. And as we went through it, I don't know whether it was a personality thing or whether it was a man-woman thing, but John was like, "If I can sit in my chair long enough, I'm going to figure this out, and I do not want to talk about this." And in my case, when I work through any kind of situation in life, I do better if I have somebody to talk to. So I couldn't talk to him. The doctors weren't talking to me. And I really cared about, it was John's issue. I knew it was really difficult for him. And I really wanted to support him and help him. And so I was not going to talk to my girlfriends, which is what, if I had some other problem, I could go talk to them. And so I felt very alone. And I just don't want that for anybody. So I really like what the doctor said about getting the support, going in together, getting the counseling. It really makes a difference. One of the things I want to say is that the relationship that we have as a couple is different than any relationship that we have with anybody else. We have some really good friends, and hopefully we're best friends with each other. But the sexual relationship is the most intimate part and different from any other relationship we have. So I really recommend that if there's any way to keep that would happen. And so we found out that what the doctors described was very successful for us and gave us back our relationship, our sexual relationship that we thought was gone. Now, one thing that I think recommends anything is if you have something and something happens to it, that you would go get another one just like it. And I used my car to kind of explain that because I had a convertible, and I had said that on a lot of talks that if anything happened to my convertible, I was going to get another one just like it. Well, something did happen, and they were wanting to total it, and I said, no, we will fix this car because I want to keep it. Well, the thing about this procedure is that the first time I shared this, I hadn't even talked with John, but I pretty well knew that it was true, that if anything were to happen, nothing has, but if anything were to happen, that we would be right in the very next day and get it fixed or get another one if that's what it took. It is that means that much to us and is that successful. So I think that's most of it.
Okay, great. Thank you, dear. Let me pick back up with the story. So I'm going back to the doctor, and what prompted this was that my PSA was at a 2, and it went to a 4, and within 6 months it went to a 10. So he did a biopsy, and we decided to have the implant. And the incision in those days was much longer. I got like a 5-inch incision across my lower abdomen. But right now, the doctors normally use about an inch and a half incision, usually underneath the penis around the scrotum sac, and even the scar is not visible. You saw the diagram on the screen. Let me just talk you through that about what an implant really is. First, you start with a reservoir, which goes up into the abdomen in the genital area where prostate is, and it's full of saline solution, salt water. As the doctor said, if it were to leak, it's not going to hurt you. It's not 35 years ago when the women's breast implant saline situation. It wouldn't hurt you. Anyway, the saline is in the reservoir. There's a tube that goes down to a pump, and the pump is actually placed inside the scrotum. And when the doctor first told me where it was going to put it, I thought, oh, great. Every time I cross my legs, I'm going to have an issue. But it gets out of the way. I've gotten out of the way for 30 years. I don't know how it does, but it gets out of the way. But on the end of that pump, which is about half the size of your thumb, on one end of it, there's a bulb that you pump, and it pulls the saline solution down through this pump and into what I call long, skinny balloons. They're cylinders that go on either side of the penis, and it fills up with the saline solution and gives you a good, firm, hard erection that's going to stay hard as long as you and your partner want it to stay hard. When it comes time to let it back down, there's a release valve. You press the other side of the little pump, and it goes right back down. It takes me maybe 30 seconds to pump it up and about 15 seconds to let it down. A lot of the questions we've had over the years from talking to people, let me just go ahead and try to answer some of those. First question I normally get is, do you know what's in there? Well, no, you don't. After a few days, it just becomes a part of your anatomy, and it's there. You're not even aware of it until you're ready to use it. And then, as the doctor said, that's the only thing you really feel is the pump in the back of the scrotum sac. Next question I get is, what about sensitivity? Sensitivity is exactly the same. The nerves that affect the prostate are different than the nerves that are on the exterior of the penis, and so the sensitivity is the same. What about orgasm? Orgasm's the same. Now, if you don't have a prostate, nothing comes out, but you still get the feeling, the good satisfaction and the contractions. If you've got a prostate, you can still have the implant put in without having to take the prostate out. It's not an either or situation. There's the doctor mentioned this too, but a lot of people have a hard time understanding the fact that it's completely hidden. It's all inside your body. So you walk around the locker room and nobody knows you got it there. If you want to pump it up halfway and walk around, that's up to you. But it's completely inside and is not visible at all. Let me mention though a couple other things. Number one, Betty referred to this as me being withdrawn. I refer to all this as like psychological overtones that affect your self-confidence and your self-esteem, etc. But it affected me, and I withdrew. Now I withdrew not only physically, I withdrew mentally and psychologically. I no longer was giving her hugs. I no longer was giving her a kiss. I was no longer patting her on the bottom like I normally do to show how much I cared for her and express my desire to be with her. And why? Because if I did that, I didn't want to start something I couldn't finish. So I withdrew, and it was as Betty said, it was a difficult time, and it has proven to be, once I got the implant, everything changed. And as I close, I want to tell you one story that kind of maybe summarizes all this. This was several years ago. I got a phone call one day, and from this gentleman. He said, "John, you probably don't remember me, but I was in a group you spoke to up here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And after hearing the presentation and talking to the doctor, I decided to have the implant." And he said, "I had the implant put in yesterday. And he's calling me, and he says, "This is the first time in 15 years I have really felt like a man." He hadn't even pumped it up yet. But the psychological part, knowing that he could have an erection. And again, understand this is only providing an erection. It has nothing to do with the libido. You got to have a desire to do this. This is really just providing the implant. And the doctor referred to this in a few minutes ago about satisfaction rates. I also want to quote another statistic that urology is a specialty, but being able to put in these implants is kind of a subspecialty, and only about 7% of the urologists nationwide do these and do them often enough to be considered proficient at it. So if you decide you want to do this, I would recommend that you go on the Coloplast website and look for people who do this, because if you have somebody that does it a lot, the outcome is going to be much more favorable. We appreciate being with you tonight, and at this point, I think if the doctor's still around, we can jointly answer some questions.
Yeah, that'd be great. You actually covered a handful of questions that we did have, so I have one for you, John and Betty, to answer. I think you might have covered it, but like exactly how long do you think it took for your intimacy to return after you finally found this treatment that worked?
Well, psychologically, it almost immediately, certainly within a few days. But as the doctor mentioned, our doctor used to use the phrase, you got to wait about 6 weeks before you take it out for a test ride. And so it was about 6 weeks before we actually put it to use.
And I think for people, some people listening to that could feel like that 6 weeks is a long time, but we had been through a year before. You didn't even tell the part about waiting for the 6 weeks, but we had been through a year not knowing that there was any, not us not knowing, the doctor knew, us not really understanding that there was something that they could do. So the year was what was so long. Once we got to the surgery, understood what it was going to be like, the 6 weeks didn't even seem that long. And also getting back some of the relationship already just having the surgery.
What surprised you the most about life with an implant?
I'll start since he's hesitating. I just think for us at the time, because we didn't have any of what you're getting right now, I was just shocked that there was such a thing, and that it really gave us what I thought was gone. I mean, and starting losing it when we're both the same age, so losing it at 51 was difficult, very difficult.
And the great part is, 30 years later, it's still working, and it's even though the doctor said, there's a general lifespan, they actually got a lifetime warranty on these things, and so I guess I've been pleased with the fact that I hadn't had to go back 30 years.
Yeah, very amazing. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time to share your story and answer those questions. We definitely appreciate that. If you'd like to learn more about surgical options and see which one might be best for you, you can do this by going to Coloplast. You can also do this by going to menmd.com. We have links directly to Coloplast from there. So you can navigate to either the ED or incontinence pages on MenMD, or you can go to Coloplast, and I'm sure that they have a link right there on their homepage. If you have a question and would like to speak to someone in person, if your question wasn't answered tonight, rather, you can also call MenMD at 857-233-5837. And this next one is also a perk for MenMD members, but you can log into the password-protected portal to schedule an appointment and have your question answered one-on-one with a personal health assistant. There will also be more resources in the Resource Center on menmd.com, so you can visit this page to view instructional videos, guides, expert articles, and more about all the treatments and conditions we just discussed.
If you found this video helpful and want to stay in the loop with our growing men's health community, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell to be notified when new content is available. Your support makes it easier for other men like you to find these helpful resources. Thanks again for watching. We hope to see you again.